Well, hey, gang, we have a really good one for you today. He is the four-time tactical games winner, at one point listed on the internet as one of the fittest men in the world, Mr. Jacob Heppner. We're going to talk about what it takes to win the tactical games, not once, not twice, not three times, but four times. We're going to talk about training, shooting, and we're going to also talk about how he wrapped up this podcast with a really amazing piece of wisdom. This podcast today is brought by our friends at Supervel Ammunition. I always say Supervel is super awesome. Check out Supervel Ammunition out in Henderson, Nevada. They deliver all over the country. Top-notch training ammo, top-notch duty ammo, and top-notch performance. Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Well, hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Higher Line podcast. According to the internet, we've got one of the fittest men in America on this podcast.
It's been a minute, but yeah. I mean,
2016, you were top 10 fittest men in America. Now, at my house, I have things up that says like world's greatest dad. So we can have any title we want. But Mr. Jacob Heppner, let's see, you're CrossFit competitor, and then you transitioned over, or maybe same time, to the tactical games. Yes?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so I competed. My last year competing in the CrossFit realm would have been 2020. My highest placement year was I was sixth in the world in 2019. My last year competing in CrossFit was 2020, and then 2021 was the year I transitioned over and did a couple different sports that year, one of them being the tactical games.
What's the other one?
Boxing. I was asked to jump in kind of last minute within 7 months into a exhibition match against one of the competitors that I competed with for many, many years in the CrossFit Games, Josh Bridges, who's a solid friend of mine, Navy SEAL, CrossFit Games competitor. And so I trained for 7 months to box, and we did it over in Dubai.
Did you have any type of a combative background?
Zero? Big old goose egg. A whole lot of nothing.
How'd you do?
Won it. I also it's an exhibition match, and you don't really a part of the same weight class. I think I lost a lot of weight, but I was still 10, 12 pounds heavier than him and a couple inches on him. So, but yeah, it was, the running joke I say is I have learned more about myself in 6 3-minute rounds than I have learned for the entirety of all my CrossFit competitions put together. Because
what'd you learn?
It's just you. I mean, all the training for that, you learn man, it's just you. There's no one else to lean on. It's all the work you put in. And honestly, you're outside of your realm scope of comfortability, right? You give me a barbell and say, hey, you're going to lift in front of these people or climb a rope or do some gymnastics or nowadays shoot a gun. No big deal. Okay, no big deal. Put on gloves and box in front of thousands of people, that's a little bit of a different deal for me. And I wasn't used to the fact that, hey, you're going to get hit in front of people and you're doing a sport that you've not really done your whole life except for 6 to 7 months. It was a huge learning process for me, and being comfortable stepping out and doing something that was outside my realm, which was also good for me to do, to be quite frank. And get hit in the face was good too.
How did you like getting hit in the face?
I didn't. I didn't. Neither did Josh. Josh had done a little bit of boxing for about a year longer than me. But it was just the cool concept of, the CrossFit Games at its core is the concept of taking CrossFit and applying it to a sport, right? So you could technically say I'm going to beat the CrossFit drum and you can make fun of me for it, right? You take any good CrossFit competitor and you put them in a sport. I don't care what it is, as long as it's not too high skill. They're not going to do bottom of the barrel. They'll probably be mediocre at it. And so that's the concept behind the sport, is being able to be mediocre at anything you throw them into. Because the transfer of skill, we do so much of random stuff. And so it was fun to jump into a sport that has a lot of skill. And I thought showing up I have a good cardio base, I'll be okay at this sport. Hell no. Boxing and any combative sport, I'm sure, the cardio application and transfer from CrossFit was not the same, like
Hmm.
at all. And so I learned that really, really quickly. And it's good piece of humble pie. Honest to goodness, I learned, like I just said, I learned more about myself, being just humbled over and over again. I mean, I went and did a couple sparring sessions. And I think one of the first sparring sessions I did, I showed up to a ring and it's probably a 13, 14-year-old kid in the ring with me. And I'm thinking, this has to be straight up illegal. But I got my teeth pounded in by this 14-year-old kid. And like that in and of itself is just a lot of humble pie you got to eat that I learned from. So
You can't use will to overcome somebody else's hard work and skill. Yeah.
he beat the crap out of me. So
Yeah.
I took it like a champ.
Yeah,
So
I know a handful of young men like that we train with that are the shooting sports has a lot of those guys too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you see, like, let's say for an example, this is probably a bad example, but you step into a ring with, like, say you're a wrestler or MMA or whatever, you step into a ring with a female, you might think, oh, it's a female, I probably can over. And that might be true for some sports. But when it comes to shooting sports, gender don't matter, man. Like,
Right,
I'll
right.
get outshot by a female every day of the week, and it don't matter your age either. I mean, there are some shooters in this world that gender regardless and age regardless, they don't care. They can outshoot
Hmm.
me every day that ends in a Y.
Yeah, and that's not like your whole focus either, right? You don't spend every day just shooting.
Yeah, I mean, not for TAC games. I spend probably more than most people because the amount of points that are on the table for that sport in the shooting aspect of it. At least I spend more time at it compared to the people I compete with. But you're correct, right? Like, so if I'm going off and doing a USPSA match against someone who shoots USPSA, that's their sport. I'm just there to kind of play around in their sport, and I'm going to get my teeth kicked in that aspect for sure.
So were you always a shooter or did you see this sport and say, hey, that looks fun. I can take my athleticism and apply it and then learn to shoot?
Yeah, so solid question. So,
I
grew
got I
up.
got to I got to interrupt you real quick. All
Yeah.
my questions are solid, bro.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, from the shooting side, right? I grew up hunting, right? So, dad gives you a bolt action rifle. The reticle is just, looks like this. There's no hash marks, no holes, no nothing on it. And, shot a pistol growing up. But I would say, in terms of firearm background, I'd say null,
Okay.
pretty null, more than, I guess, zero. And competing in 2020 in CrossFit, kind of decided like, it was a weird year for a lot of reasons. Am I right?
What year?
And so 2020,
Okay.
and it was a weird year for a lot of reasons. And the season was weird. And kind of just like, maybe it's time to kind of step away and try something different. And at that time, the end of 2020, I had been asked to jump in and try boxing, get paid for it, and do something like this. And I was like, okay, it's kind of a cool exit to try do something different. And then I had seen the sport called tactical games for a couple years, and I had shot a little bit, and I thought that'd be a really cool concept to jump off into and kind of leave CrossFit because it had fitness and it had shooting. And I knew, hey, I'll be really, really good at the shooting or the fitness side of things, but not the shooting, obviously. And so I jumped in headfirst to basically boxing and the tactical games in 2021 with the goal of, okay, can this, meet my competitive nature of stepping away from CrossFit and jump into these two sports. And so boxing was a one-off, right? I'm not going to continue doing that. That was a one-off thing. But tactical games, I really enjoyed the community, really enjoyed the training aspect to it. And like I mentioned, I was really good at 50% of the sport, just the fitness. And so having to learn the shooting aspect in terms of a stance, grip, the whole 9 yards, reticle, shooting along range, everything, I had to learn from the ground up, basically.
What's that look like? I've got quite a few buddies that have played around with that. For the people that are not familiar, it's physical fitness mixed with shooting. So what's a match look like when somebody shows up to the tactical games?
Yeah, so basically you can kind of look at it and say, if you look at it from a Venn diagram or a pie chart, let's assume 50% is fitness and 50% shooting, right? Basically, when you look at the point structure, you can kind of assume that it's safe to say it's 50-50. So it tailors to the people like me who are right good at fitness but suck at shooting from the beginning. And it also tailors pretty well to the people on the opposite side of the spectrum, which are, hey, I grew up shooting, but my fitness is subpar. Say that's maybe like, Ellie Mill, someone who's just a great shooter from a shooting background, but would consider themselves to be novice when it comes to fitness. So it kind of meets both people, both groups of people where they are. When you show up to a match, let's say it's a 2-day match, right? Not the national championships we just finished, but if it's a 2-day match, you're safe to assume you're going to have about 8 stages across the course of a weekend, so 2 days, so 4 stages a day. And of those 4 stages, it's safe to assume you're going to have 2 that are fitness only and 2 that are shooting only, and then 4 that are a hybrid approach to those. So of the shooting only, you can kind of assume they're going to be like, hey, it might be a longer running stage, hey, a 1-mile run or a 2-mile run or up to a 4-mile run, could be a sprint. And then maybe we have something on a sandbag only or a concept 2, like a rower or a ski or a biker only. And that would be your fitness only stages. Shooting only stages are what you assume they'd be. We might run a 2-gun stage that you might be seeing a PCSL match of similar nature. You might see a USPSA stage, and you might just see a long range rifle only stage on steel at distance out to, from 100 yards out to possibly 600, 700 yards on steel. So when you look at those 2 sports, right, like we talked about earlier, it behooves someone, if you want to be good at the sport, you're probably going off and competing in USPSA matches, PCSL 2-gun matches, some kind of long PRS style stages where it'll be like a quantified performance or some other kind of variation of a long range stage, because it will transfer over. In the similar nature, when you look at CrossFit, the same thing can be said. So to get better at CrossFit, it wasn't like you'd show up and only compete in CrossFit matches, right? You probably go off and compete in USA Olympic weightlifting matches. You probably go off and learn from rowing coaches. You probably go off and have a running coach, right? And you go compete in triathlons or those things. So the similar concept for sports is kind of the same, where you can't be a specialist. You got to kind of be pretty good at anything they can throw at you. And if you are decent at everything they can throw at you, then you're probably going to place well or do well in the sport. Again, very similar to CrossFit.
Let's go back. So you got one of these stages. You said a mile, 2,
Sure.
3, 4 miles. So you're gunned up. You see the course of fire. They tell you, here's what's happening. You've got to move your body from this position to that position, and there's targets here or there, and you've got to shoot them. Go. Is that what that looks like?
No, so when I'm talking fitness only stages, we're probably just wearing a plate carrier and maybe a ruck. No gear on ourselves, right? Now, if we are talking like a shooting only stage, let's say we did like a 2-gun stage, it might, shot timer goes off. You might have your pistol. It's already loaded, made ready. You draw it. You're taking paper targets on the move, paper targets in some kind of form of action shooting stage. You might clear your pistol, might holster your pistol, and then go on to shoot a rifle stage on steel, all on some kind of part time on a shot timer. Those 2 things would be completely separate. We have not done a stage where it's like, hey, Mickey, I'm going to have you run a mile, and while you're running this mile, there are targets that are out there. Whereas you might see that sport might be like a running gun that you see is pretty popular in Texas, where there's a 5K route, and every 800 meters, there's some kind of like shooting stage every 800 meters on this 5K route that you're going to go do. That would be a different sport. But still a fun sport, just different than what we do.
So you came from CrossFit, which to me
Correct.
is the most idiotic sport under the sun. That's just the way I like to describe it to people. Hey, let's see. We joke around. There's a couple guys I know that have been around that sport for a long time. But like that whole sport is like who can do the most work in the shortest amount of time, right? Like who can move the most mass or move your own ass, right?
Yeah. So basically, you can define CrossFit as, right, you have to kind of separate the sport from the company, right? And that's hard for a lot of people. So CrossFit as a company is meant from the perspective of it's a fitness program, right? That blew up in 2008 or whatever. And CrossFit in and of itself was never meant to be the sport you see now. the CrossFit Games became popular because it took the people that were the fittest or whatever in their box or affiliate back at the time, and then started in California and grew from Aromas to where it is now. And so, at its definition, right, you look at CrossFit, and you get a fairly good definition, which you said there is like work is force over distance, or work force times distance, right? So essentially, who can perform the most work, whether it be given a time period or given the amount of work you perform in a time period. And so when you look at the CrossFit Games, whether it be on CBS or ESPN back in the past or on YouTube, it is basically over the course of 3 to 4 days. You've got 40 the fittest men, 40 the fittest women that qualified for a myriad of ways to get there. And over the course of 3 to 4 days, they'll be performing 12 to 14 workouts across that time frame. And every workout is going to be a lot different. But basically, it can be kind of boiled down to 3 different categories. That's going to be weightlifting, gymnastics, and monostructural. And those three different categories can be boiled down into just a lot of different movements. So you could say, throw out a movement. Okay, snatch. Okay, that's weightlifting. Running, that's monostructural. Pull-ups or pulling of any nature, that's going to be gymnastics. And so they're going to take MW and G, monostructural, weightlifting, and gymnastics, and they're going to break it down and perform all these different workouts, whether they are for time, for reps, for weight. The list can go on. It's a pretty grueling sport. I was lucky enough that I exited the sport at a time when I didn't have any nagging injuries, but for the people that spend too much time at the top end of the sport, I mean, it's like any professional sport. You bowl, you do whatever. There's going to be overusage injuries because you're doing the same movement over and over and over again.
Sure. Yeah. How old are you, Jacob?
35.
35. So did you, as a kid, you play football, you wrestle, you do anything like that?
Yep. Basically football my whole life, all the way through college.
Okay. So you're not playing football now. You are
Check.
into this completely different sport. I'm guessing in the tactical games, by some of the people I've known in that space, you're probably light years ahead of many of them in the physical stuff. Would that be a good
I
assessment?
mean, that's not, it's a fair assessment. Like a lot of people look at the TAC games. I'll back it up and answer your question. So a lot of people look at the TAC games, they'll say it's CrossFit with guns, right? And if you don't understand the sport, that's a fair assessment. The problem is, if it was truly the CrossFit Games with guns, I would win by a much, much larger margin. And so basically, the fitness we perform in the TAC games is a very subset of the fitness moves you see in the CrossFit Games or CrossFit in general. It's non-subjective. So when you watch the CrossFit Games, right, there's someone judging you. So as Mickey's doing this workout, there's someone judging Mickey, and they're making sure that Mickey hits the required points of performance or guidelines and standards for a movement. So if Mickey's doing an air squat, I want to make sure that Mickey's hitting bottom of the depth, 90 degrees, hip crease below parallel, and then he's standing up with his hips locked out at the top. So you have a judge there to make sure they're counting and making sure you're meeting standard. For the tactical games, which I do love about it, we do a lot of movements, all the movements, to be quite frank, that take the subjective nature out of it. So while we have a judge, that judge is counting for us. Hey, Mickey, you've done, you're on the 10th sandbag over yoke, right? Now you're on the 11th. They're not judging the rep because the rep itself can be judged by anybody watching, right? So we're putting a sandbag over a yoke, we're climbing a rope, we're doing a lot of things that take the subjective judging nature out of it. Like I'm not looking for, did Mickey get his hip crease below his knee and I got to judge in real time? Or did he stand up the rep? Or did he lock out that barbell? We're not doing that. And so because of taking the non-subjective nature out of a lot of movements, it tends to boil the movements down to a very basic level, which is good and bad. And so because of that, I would say it's not safe to say I show up and I'm light years ahead of people. If we added all the CrossFit movements, I would say that's probably safer to say. But because of the nature of the movements we do, like I'm not the best runner in my sport. You're not going to throw me out there and say, hey, Jake, we're going to do a 4 mile run. You're probably going to beat everyone by 6 minutes. Absolutely not. We've got some runners in our sport that are phenomenal and make me look like I'm a freaking slug. And the same thing can be said about, sandbag work. So if we're going to do a lot of sandbag strongman work, that's going to be heavy, say it goes to the 250 or 300 pounds for sandbags, like people in our sport that are absolutely going to murder me at that because they are heavier, better at sandbags, have a strongman background. But the issue is we have to combine that all together. So I'm looking at the possibility of, okay, Mickey, I'm going to have you run 4 miles, and then I'm going to have you pick up a 250 sandbag in the next stage. So the question isn't, will I win every stage? It's who can be mediocre or decent on all these physical fitness tests is where you really make your money at and you can put yourself ahead of everyone else. Because usually the person who's running the 4 miles really well probably doesn't move the 250-pound bag pretty well, but I tend to do pretty decently well, 90% or plus on both of those.
I like it. So you just won the national championship just recently. Correct. What does that look like, your win compared to the number 2 place or number 3 place? Is it win-lose or is there point structure?
So it's very similar. So a lot different than CrossFit, and I kind of wish CrossFit would take this point structure, but basically look at it like we're grading on a curve from a very basic perspective. You're doing the CrossFit Games, you won an event, you get 100 points. You get second, you get 95 points. It doesn't matter if you got first and I got second and you beat me by 2 minutes or 2 seconds, I still get 95 points.
I see.
For our sport, graded on a curve, very similar to a USPSA or any kind of match from that perspective, we're grading based upon, not really hit factor, but we're grading based upon how well you did in that stage comparatively to first place. So if I go out and we're going to do a 1 mile run, and let's say you win the sucker and you do it, I'm going to make math easy for us. So you do it in 10 minutes. I know you can run a mile faster in 10 minutes probably. So you do a 10-minute mile. And let's say I do an 11-minute mile. Well, now my 11-minute mile divided by your 10-minute divided by my 11-minute mile is the point structure I'm going to receive for that. So if you do math real quickly, 10 divided by 11, I can't do it on top of my head. That's the percentage of the points that I receive. And that goes for every single stage we do. So you might go into a stage, Mickey, and you might take first place and second place is literally maybe 2 seconds behind you and like just finishes. Okay, well, you'll get 100 points, but then second place might get 99.5 points. Like it's not that. So there's a win and a lose for like comparatively to how CrossFit scores in terms of like grading on a curve is like, if you're really, really close, you don't get the gap second place. But if you do really, really well compared to second, third, fourth, so on and so forth, you can gap people and take a lot of points pretty quickly.
Okay. Very cool. Let's change gears a little bit. What'd you go to college for?
Ooh, this is my favorite subject. What do you think? I graduated bachelor's, 4-year. What do you think my 4-year degree was in? I'll give you 3 guesses and you won't get any of them. Unless you did research on me, then you'll get it.
All right, I'll play.
Hit me. What's your top 3 guesses?
Religious studies.
Nope.
Greek literature.
Nope. This is super specific, but yeah, nope. But these are good guesses too.
Let's see. What's another one?
Science field.
Oh, science. Okay. I don't know. What is it?
Mathematics.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I believe it because you felt the need to make math dumb for me. I'm a carpenter by trade, so I can math a little bit.
Yeah. So what do you math real world stuff's what you do.
What do you do with math?
What do you think I do with it now? Nothing. I mean, the beauty of college is you learn how to you learn how to learn in college and you learn a skill, but your application of it, unless you go for a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that, I feel like you just teach yourself how to learn. I got a degree in mathematics, went and worked for the U.S. Army as a DoD civilian for a couple of years, working for the Department of Defense in terms of, I worked for TRADOC, which is training and doctrine and command. I worked for them from a mathematic analyst perspective for the Army. And that's how I got introduced to CrossFit, because back in the day, most military installations had a CrossFit gym on post. And so that's how I got introduced to that sport. And then stopped working for the Army. Went and worked for as a project manager for a couple of years for a tech company, and then kind of got more involved in CrossFit. Quit working full time, and then now I'm kind of an entrepreneur and do a lot of things. But I don't use my math degree. But I loved that I had it. Wouldn't change that for the world. But weird degree to
So,
have.
so what do you do? How do you pay your bills?
How do I pay my bills? Feet pictures. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, what's that? That's
So
what's that? What's the
and that Instagram handle for feet pictures is found out. So how I pay my bills now. When I started full-time CrossFit, kind of quit my job doing that. I do a lot of programming online for the CrossFit space and for the tactical games currently. And I had a lot of my programming for remote clients on an app that was it was a good app to deliver clients from a B2C, but it needed some work. And so I basically bought into that app, and then that app got acquired by a larger company. So currently, I essentially have a couple apps I'm a part of, but one of them got acquired by a large gym software solution in the CrossFit space, and that is Push Press. And so I currently work part time for them. They acquired my company. I work part time for them, doing some odd objects. And then my wife and I own a myriad of companies across the space. We both own a couple mobile pet grooming vans in Kansas City.
Oh wow.
We also have a media agency that I own and have employees a part of for doing a lot of content for companies in the fitness and in the shooting space. And then I currently also do programming online for CrossFit still, but also I do a lot of I'm the director of online programming, whatever it's called, for the tactical games. So for all the tactical games programming. So Mickey comes to tactical games, loves it, is like, how do I get better at the sport? We've got a program for that, and I run that. So kind of just all over with a lot of different things I'm interested in. So
It's cool. Do you get money if you win? Like you just won? What's the prize?
that's
Is it
good.
just
Yeah, good question. So in years past, we didn't. So I've won 4 years in a row now. I'm the fourth consecutive Tactical Games national champion. And for the past 4 years, there has not been a price table in terms of a monetary value. There's always things on the table that, whether I keep or sell, so on and so forth. This upcoming year, so my fifth year, which is actually very exciting, the Tactical Games just announced that their title sponsor for next year is Sig Sauer. And so SIG will be coming on to be the title sponsor for the Tactical Games. And along with that will be a monetary prize table. I'm not sure of the divisions. I'm not sure of the actual amount per placement, but it is a larger prize purse for the prize table. So that's kind of exciting for the sport. For me, I got to kind of join it from kind of the beginning, the early stages, and it's been cool to see it grow, right? So the title sponsor this past year was Under Armour. And so seeing a large brand that you and I have known for years come in and sponsor, I'm not going to call it a podunk sport, but like a small niche sport, especially in the shooting industry, is very exciting. And so now we're seeing Under Armour is going to be, I don't think going forward with that, but obviously it's going to be going to SIG for at least 2026. So that's exciting.
that is cool. How do the guys feel about SIG? I guess the guys and gals. How do people feel about SIG with any controversy that's going on as of late?
Yeah, I mean, so the I would say the best thing about SIG, and I don't never ran that pistol, never personally shot a SIG myself, so I can't speak to that perspective. But I will say that I love, and I don't think it matters for tactical games specifically. I love companies that come in and sponsor sports where they have people in that company that actually shoot that sport. And so we had a couple guys that the reason SIG is a sponsor is because SIG had a couple of their guys that teach for the academy, I believe, show up and compete in the tactical games the past 2 years and loved it and went back to their academy and talked about it. And the reason SIG is there is because two guys showed up and just loved the sport and did well. And honestly, can't think of his last name, but Michael, one of the guys who shoots for SIG or is a part of SIG that helped SIG be a part of this, I think he got like fifth at the national champions this year. So like he's not someone to be like, like they had some guys that show up the middle of the barrel. Like they had two really good shooters show up and do a good job. And it's fun to see companies show up that sponsor but compete. Because the fact of the matter is, Under Armour, love them or like them, which I do, they never had shooters that show up and do the sport. But having SIG show up and have shooters that do the sport, it's pretty dope.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. I
So,
don't think they were using the pistol that we're talking about. They were using, I believe, their 211, their 2011 platform.
sure. What do you shoot? I see you got a bunch of stuff back behind you. So, what do you compete with?
Yeah. So what I'm competing with, from a pistol perspective, um, from a pistol perspective, we're going to run the Atlas Erebus, so 2011 platform, the 1911 and a double stack. Atlas Gunworks is a company out of Vermont,
Yep, top
and
notch stuff.
basically, yeah. Have you shot their pistols before?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which one do you have you shot? All of them or some of
Oh,
them?
probably over the years, I've been around USPSA since before it was a USPSA, since it was IPSC. So yeah, I've known
Yeah,
bunches of guys that have shot those. Great gun.
yes. Basically, when I did my first couple TAC Games events in 2011, and I realized I loved the sport because, like, what I recommend is like try the sport with what you have. Don't go out and buy crap for it. Like, what do you have? Take that, go compete, and then when you're there, ask people like, "Hey, Mickey, like, why do you run that rifle for TAC Games? Can you explain that to you? Because all of us are going to help out and probably let you shoot the darn thing." And so I know my first TAC Games event and thought, I can do this. Like, I like this sport. The people are good. The community's awesome. I can see myself staying about here for as many years as they'll allow me to. And so I asked around. I'm like, hey, what's the best? Because I was shooting a striker fired, stock. I think it was a Walther. And I'm like, what's a solid pistol for this sport? And what's the best 2011 I can pretty much find in the market? And everyone kept saying Atlas. So basically, I called them up. And the funny thing is, Mark, who is a good friend of mine now who works over at Atlas, I called him up. He didn't know me. I'm like, hey, man, I'm a CrossFitter that just wants to shoot guns. And I asked around what's the best 2011. They said you. I would love to shoot for you guys. You don't know me and I don't know you, but let's just have a conversation. They trusted me enough to like work with me in year one, and I'll basically probably shoot an Atlas the rest of my life for the sport. It's one of the best pistols. So that's what I'm shooting from a pistol perspective. And then from the rifle perspective, which is very specific to the sport, we are running a JP rifle. So we're running the JP 223 556 chambered in, basically what everyone runs. And we're in a 16-inch barrel suppressor on it with a large optic on the top from Leupold 3.6 to 18 Mark V, and then an offset red dot on the side. It's a very specific, basically like the rifles we shoot for tactical games. Like if you were going to shoot a gas gun match, like a quantified performance, basically that's the rifle you're probably going to shoot for TAC games. It's very marksmanship based. You have to shoot fast on paper sometimes. So you want something offset from a red dot, but basically you want to shoot long range and small targets very accurately. So it's a very marksmanship style sport.
So when you talk about marksmanship style sport, what's the target out there at 100 or 500 yards? What are you hitting?
Great question. So I've noticed it like 3 times, right? You're looking at 3 to 4 MOA. So that's a pretty good guideline for distance. That, of course, can change. That's a decent guideline. It might be that there might be something that's a little smaller or a little bit bigger. Like, for instance, we did a stage in Nationals this past weekend where we had, if you're familiar with the Concept 2 devices, we had bike row ski. Bike row ski. Bike row ski. I'm an idiot. But we had bike row ski out there, and then we would do a set of calories on the bike. We would go to the firing line and shoot our rifle at about, I think it was like just under 6. I think it was like 570 yards on a pretty large target. And the target was probably 4.5, maybe 5 MOA. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't actually measure it. But looking through my reticle, it was probably bigger than that. But we go back and forth. So we bike, shoot, steel, bike, shoot, steel, row, shoot, steel, row, shoot, steel, ski, shoot, steel, ski, steel, and then done. So like it changes, but 3 to 4 MOA is a pretty good definition of the target size. And that could be on steel, and that can also be shooting paper. So, from an example perspective.
Are these known distances before the event starts, or are you having to range it as you get to it?
Yeah, so they've done, I think they've done maybe 2 unknown distance stages where, hey, Mickey, you can't range it. It's that's against the rules. 3, 2, 1, go. Shot timer goes off. you're going to have to figure that out yourself, whether you have a rangefinder on you or you're using known target size and your
Mm-hmm.
MOA or mill etchings on your reticle to figure out the size, target, and distance. Up to you. They've done maybe one or two of those, but we're walking stages before the stage starts. We're walking the day before if we want to. So, like when I show up to a stage, I know the distance we are shooting for rifle and for pistol, and so I can essentially, perform holds or dial depending upon what I'm shooting and what the target looks like.
Very cool. And I do believe this is how we connected. You're shooting
Yeah,
Super
yeah,
Bowl. Yep.
yeah.
So
How do you know them?
I'm probably the guy that knows them better than anybody. So I've known
Yeah,
Cameron for
nailed it.
years. So years ago, and this is a fun conversation for another time, uh, but a good conversation for this discussion. So Supervel's been around longer than you and I've been alive. I'm
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of an old soul in this space and have known about what Lee Juris did in the 60s. So I ran into Cameron about a decade ago, and at the time he had just relaunched the brand, and a guy named Pat Sweeney, famous gun writer, master class shooter before Grandmaster existed, great shooter, great writer, had done an article on the new at the time there was no solid copper on the 9 ball. He tested it out of a STI longbow. STI is now staccato.
Yep.
And I I used to remember these numbers, but it was like a 50-yard group out of a pistol, okay? That was about a half of an inch for
Yeah.
a 10 shot group. So I talked to Pat, got a hold of Cameron, and so we've been supporting them for a lot of years. I was the marketing department before they've
Oh,
kind of spun things up. So most of the videos you see online, the gel tests and all that stuff, that was my media guys that filmed all that stuff years ago. So Mike and his
that's
family
awesome.
got on board, and they've really taken that company to another level. Cameron's fantastic dude that bridges the gap from another time. I don't know if you know much about Cameron and
Yep.
his background, but very astute gun writer. He's got a great depth of knowledge in this space. But yeah, so for many, many years, we were the people out pounding the drum saying, go check this brand out. So we have traveled the country. We were the only dealer for the longest time as well. So felt it was a good dovetail. So are you running the 77 grain in the matches? Is that what you
Yeah.
shoot? Yep.
Yeah. So that's a great lead in. So I shot last season with some ammo that, like I'm not a shooter by heart. So like I'm learning as I go, right? So every year you kind of learn something new about the weapon system you're running. Oh, I learned how to use my reticle better this year. Or like, last year I kind of learned, okay, at the end, like maybe the ammo I was running wasn't the greatest because of the standard deviation extreme spread I had in the actual round. Now, I don't care as much about pistol. I do care, but not as much as rifle. And so I decided, okay, I got a rifle from JP. I'm going to buy a bunch of ammo. And I went out and probably bought 10 to 15 different company style of ammo that range from a 69 to a 77 grain, because that's what I want to shoot for long range for attack games. And so went through it all, chronoed all of it. And then, of course, ran through my rifle because I'm not going to use the greatest chronoed ammo if it doesn't function in my rifle well. What I found out is like, I'm shooting that stinking 77 grain from Superbell. And at the time, like somebody had recommended it to me. It wasn't a brand that when I type in, awesome long range rifle, it's not like the things that pops up at SEO. Someone had recommended Superbell, so I went and bought some and ran it. And I think the freaking standard deviation was like 7. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
all the other ammo I'm shooting is not 7. And so,
Sure.
of course, I'm like, okay, that's scored pretty well, but I've got to run through my rifle now, because if I run through my rifle and it's not grouping well because of, whether my, whatever the case may be, if I'm going to cycle my rifle well or use well or group well, who cares if it's 7? Well, fact of the matter is it grouped amazing. And it had a seven for freaking standard deviation. So I had met Mike at PCSL Nationals back in 2021. because I had ran out of pistol ammo, and he was just like, "Hey man, I got some ammo," and he just handed me some ammo. Didn't know who the guy was. So I did some research and kind of find out, I'm like, oh, I actually recognize this guy. Like, this guy gave me ammo back in 2021. So I hit him up and I said, look, you don't know me. I said, but your rifle ammo would be amazing for this sport. Because I actually think I ran it for one event without even talking to him. Because I was like, let me just see. If it doesn't work, why am I going to talk to him? And so I ran it for our one of our events, and it functioned well. And the pistol ammo, like you said, and they've now since launched a new brand called Ultra Match that I actually used at Nationals this year. But their pistol ammo group extremely well in the Erebus also. And so I hit them up, and because the fact of the matter is, like, if I'm doing USPSA, not to crap on it, but like groupings matter, but okay, like I don't need half-inch groups at 50 yards. So it's not as important. For my sport, extremely important. If I can't group at 20, 30, 40 yards, I'm not touching your ammo with a 10-foot stick if it's pistol, because I have to shoot, a freaking 3-inch circle at 25 yards. If it can't group, and I'm also moving because I'm tired, if it can't group, I don't want your ammo. And
Mm-hmm.
so it functioned so well that I called them up. I'm like, look, I don't even care if we work together. I'm going to continue to buy it because it's the best I've found on the freaking market. But luckily, they wanted to do some stuff together. And so since then, been a phenomenal relationship with them, with Taylor and Mike over at Superville. They've done a great job. And they just launched their new 124 grain Ultra Match ammo that, so they sent me an email probably 4 weeks ago. And they're like, hey, we're going to launch this. And they had a grouping at 50 yards that was like a similar concept that was
Mm-hmm.
honestly stupid. And so I called and I said, look, if you can do it, send me some ammo. I need to test it. Like, don't send me ammo and then like expect me to run it the next day at nationals. If you can get it out to me early, I'll test it and I'll run it in our sport, because honest to goodness, there's not a sport in the shooting industry that is as marksmanship based as tactical games in my mind, from a pistol perspective, for sure. And so they sent me out a couple thousand rounds. We ran it. It grouped well. And that's what I ran at nationals this year. So it was really cool because Max Leograndis used Ultra Match the same weekend and won, I think it was like PCSL nationals or PCSL,
Mm-hmm.
yes, regional. And then Mitch, oh gosh, what's his name? PCC shooter, freaking teenager. Not
Mm-hmm.
Mitch. Miggs ran a match using Ultra Match that weekend, and I ran it that weekend. All three of us won our respective, whatever we were competing in, using the same pistol ammo. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, awesome company. There's your ad readout, but like, I don't even care about ad readout. Those guys are awesome over there, and they make good ammo.
They make great ammo. The silly thing is, it's not impossible to do. You just have to adhere to a quality control standard, and you can do it. And that's what they've done a really good job of. I have shot a million rounds of it. I've shot hundreds of thousands of rounds of it. So I may have the biggest baseline of anybody because shooting it for a decade, almost a decade, and most of our students shoot it. And I keep track. I've got in our trailer a notebook. So when we see catastrophic failures or even little things, accuracy issues, I take notes. Okay, whose ammo is it? What's the lot? What's the gun? And fluky things can happen, but
Yeah,
their stuff by far has got the lowest percentage of issues, which is just
yeah,
the quality control that they put into stuff.
for sure. And so, like to follow up on that, and I think we've seen a trend where it doesn't matter, to be quite frank, what ammo company sponsors the TAC games. I've seen Superville come in and start absolutely murdering people in terms of like just running it, because we run specified round count. So remind me, is it Comstock or Virginia that's specified for USPSA?
Comstock, I believe.
Okay, so basically, if we have a two-gun stage, it'll be Virginia. But if we are running any other stage to include fitness, it'll be Comstock, because basically what they're doing is they have to know how many rounds Mickey put down range on the target for counting. So if we do 3 rounds of like run 400 meter and shoot 10 pistol shots. Well, when you're done with a stage, we're going to say, okay, well, Mickey finished that 3 round workout in 10 minutes. We'll make it up. And then that's your raw time. So then we'll go down range. We'll pull off your paper target that you shot, and we're looking for 30 rounds down range on a target, right? So maybe it's a 2.5-inch circle at 20 yards. Well, if Mickey misses 5 rounds, it's 10 seconds per miss added to your raw time, and that's your finalized time. So now your time is 10:50. We'll convert it to seconds and put it in practice score. Because we shoot Comstock, because of that, we don't show up with other rounds. So if you show up with an ammo that has a bad standard deviation or bad accuracy or comes out of your rifle bad or pistol bad, like you don't get that round back. Or if you have a squib or you have some kind of malfunction, it's over. Like that's it. So it's not like it's like, oh, Mickey can be like, oh, well, that round was a piece of junk, like it squibbed or it did bad. I'm going to grab another round out of my pocket and shove it in my gun. No, you show up with 3x10. That's it. And so because of that, we lean very heavily into reliability. Like I may not, if you had the choice of give me reliability or give me an ammo that is just going to function like has a really high velocity, I'm going to choose reliability every day that starts on a Y because I'm shooting Comstock the whole weekend. So that's the big thing that like I've noticed is like I've shot other rifle ammo companies, and I don't need to name names, but like I had issues. I had way too many issues. I'd bring extra ammo because I'm going to have squibs, and I know I'm going to have squibs. I don't want to deal with that. Like I want to know that I'll pull the trigger, it's going to go down range, and it's going to hit where I want it to hit. And that's pretty much why I run their ammo.
Mm-hmm. And there's a different need for some of this stuff. I had Bennett grab me some stuff. I've got 10 mil FMJ sitting here and some 62 grain solid copper. This company started by making ammunition for stopping men. That was really their claim to fame, high speed, low mass bullets. But the stuff that they're loading this FMJ on is the exact same process that the high dollar long range stuff or hunting slash defensive stuff is loaded on. There's a video out there I did, I think last summer. I took an 18.5-inch Radian, put I think it's a 1-6 Steiner on it. No bags, no bipod, shot out to 1,000 yards with it, just proned out in the dirt. And unfortunately, YouTube took the video down for some reason. I re-uploaded it. I had to change something. But to take a stock rifle with a 1-6 and be able to holding a quarter minute with that gun, it was a beautiful day, windless, like just a perfect day at a friend of mine's range out in Ohio. Hitting 1,000 yards with a 223 reliably is pretty ridiculous. The gun helps, but you can't do that with any old ammunition. So shooting at 400 or 500 yards with that stuff is just silly.
Yeah. And that's what I've noticed. And that's why don't matter if I'm working with or not, I'll probably continue to shoot that ammo because for our sport, it checks all the boxes that I need checked for sure.
Change gears again. So you're 35 years old, one of the fittest guys on the planet, according to you. That's the stuff that you keep trying to put all over the internet. It's what I've heard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah.
So what's a training day? Sure. What's a training day look like? I'm sure you've got a myriad of things that you're training. Is it every day? Are you doing something? Do you have rest days?
Yeah. If we're talking CrossFit, right, we're doing two, 3 a days, whatever the case may be.
How are these 30 minutes, hour long? How long are these?
Well, let's see. When I was competing in CrossFit, we might do 2 a days. So we might do like, you could probably safe to assume that I might spend 4 hours in the gym. That could be split in a myriad of different ways. It could be like, hey, I showed up in the morning, I knocked out a rowing piece, took me 45 minutes, and I might come back a couple hours later, get a session, then another session later at night. It just kind of depends. But you're safe to assume like 4 to 4.5 hours in the gym. For tech games, like you don't need that amount of time in the gym because the fact of the matter is you have to shoot. So I will say I have probably the reason I am able to be competitive quickly and stay competitive in the sport is because the blessing I've built around me. And so I live on 50 acres outside Kansas City, and on the acreage, I have basically a self affiliate CrossFit gym that's not affiliated. So I have a fully functioning gym. My property is about 200 yards away. And then behind that gym is a range. I have a 100-yard bay, and then I have a 485, basically a 500-yard bay on my property. So I can't run these companies, be a good husband, be a good father, and still be able to train at a high level if it wasn't for the things that are on my property. Because I mean, the fact of the matter is, if the range was 30 minutes away, it's an hour I lose every day. And what am I doing in
Yep.
that hour? Like, I can get work done, jump on a bike and bike 200 meters and then shoot, and then come back and watch the kids. So for me, we're in the off season right now. We just finished. I think I've been in the gym once in the past 2 weeks, and I hated it. Haven't touched a gun other than the fact that I just showed you a gun. So when I'm back in season, usually I will try to get into the gym once and the range once a day. As the season progresses, it might change and look differently because the training will change. Because right now, you're basically, when you're trying to be good at attack games, you're basically going to work out and you're going to shoot separately because you can't get good at something by combining it. So if I told you, I want you to be a good, I'm going to make this up, right? Chef, right? You're going to pick some of the things that you need to improve on to be a chef. You're not just going to cook meals the whole time. You're
Sure.
probably going to work on certain things very micro level to improve your ability to be a chef. Same thing for TAC games, right? I'm going to work on specific fitness things that I am not good at, and then specific shooting things that I am not good at. And then as the season progresses or gets closer to its culmination, I will essentially marry those things together and combine it and then shoot and work out more together from that perspective. But for the
I dig
offseason
it.
now, just going to be fitness, it's going to be shooting. It's going to be cold. So I won't be on the range as much. I'll basically be dry firing a lot in my house or in the barn. So
I like it. How do you feel these skills translate to you being a better protector of your family?
yeah, it definitely makes me a lot more cognizant of the people that carry guns around me, knowing that they are not putting the time that I have put in on a firearm. So I have had my couple churches security teams come out with me. Um, and I want to clarify something. When I teach firearms, I have won the tactical games. That does not mean I know anything about tactics. That name obviously stuck with the sport. You can't change the name now, right? But it's not like I am teaching how to clear a room, how to do all this. But what I can teach is stance, grip, draw, shooting a pistol, and moving with it. Same for a rifle, right? Now, obviously, for a church security team, you're probably not talking about a rifle, you're talking about a pistol. So I've had a couple teams come out on my property. It is very eye opening to me to see the amount of people, whether they're law enforcement, mill, or church security team, that carry a firearm or have a career that have a firearm that don't spend the allocated time on that firearm.
Hmm.
A lot of it can be voiced back to, well, I have a budgeting constraint and a certain amount of rounds I can shoot per year, which I get it. But at the same time, dry fire is free. And
Yeah,
by golly, I've got more dry fire targets in my house than I care to mention, care to show. And just takes a little bit of time every day. So it's pretty eye opening to see the amount of people that carry, whether it's their job requirement or just their hobby requirement, or from a protector standpoint, they carry that don't actually spend the time on the firearm to get very close with it and understand it from a subconscious standpoint.
I dig it. The caveats to you listeners is dry fire is only good if you know what you're dry firing. Right? It's kind of like me practicing to be a chef, but not understanding how to make a sauce or julienne a carrot or any of those things. So you know this, but we've got to go get a baseline of understanding so that as we're practicing, we're not just burning in a bunch of junk like
Yep.
like me
I equate it.
pretending to do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I equate it back to CrossFit in terms of like, you want to get good at snatch. That's awesome, man. I am not going to have you, I want to improve my 100 max snatch. I'm not going to have you snatch 80% every day, right? In order to get good at snatch, we're going to work on some very basic fundamental. I'm going to hand you a freaking PVC pipe, and you're going to use that PVC pipe like the whole put the jacket on, take the jacket off from the Karate Kid. And it's
Mm.
going to get boring, but that's how you learn muscle control subconsciously, how to move a barbell for the snatch. And then when I give you a barbell, you feel a lot faster and you feel better. It's the same thing for shooting. Like, I'm not going to give you a firearm and say, okay, well, every day in order to get better at this firearm, you're going to run a stage every day. You're going to run a USPSA, they're not benchmarks, they're classifiers. You're not going to run a classifier every day, USPSA to get better at. You're going to break that down to very minuscule level concepts and practice at an atomic, what I would call an atomic level. Hey, I'm going to draw sight picture, trigger press and prep. How am I looking? Am I target focused? Am I freaking sight focused? All those things. Am I moving? What's my level change when I'm moving? And so all those things are really important. And when it comes to dry fire, like your sport is dependent upon how you dry fire. When I first started TAC games, I had heard people say, you want to get good at a gun, you need to dry fire. That was the stupidest thing in the world. Like, oh, cool, I'm going to get my gun. I'm going to point it at a freaking post-it note on the wall, and I'm going to pull the trigger and over and over. And I thought, that is the dumbest thing to get better at it. I had so many people tell me to do it that I decided, in order to silence them and tell them to shut up, I just have to do it for a month. If I do it for a month every day and it doesn't work, I can tell them to go pound sand. But I have to do it because if I don't, I can't tell them that. Within 2 weeks, and I wasn't even dry firing with a good program, which is what you just mentioned. Within 2 weeks of me doing a novice level, idiot level concept of dry fire, I noticed a huge difference. And then I realized, okay, well, that's awesome. I need to do this, but now I need an actual plan. And
Mm.
I wasn't training the correct way for my sport and tack games for dry fire. And with some changes, it carried over really quickly. And now, man, I own every book in the freaking universe for dry fire or shooting because I've gleaned as
What's
much
your
knowledge as I
favorite?
can
What's
from
your
those
favorite
people.
one? Sorry, I didn't mean to
Man,
talk over you, Jake.
love him or hate him, regardless of his douchey attitude and how he treats the community,
Don't talk
Ben
about
Stoker's
Ben
got
like
some.
that. Don't talk about Ben like
Ben's got
that.
some good books, man. I personally, I love to follow the guy because I love that kind of just swagger. But
So,
like,
so
I
Ben's
own all
not
that man's
is.
book. I was just talking to Joel Parker, lives in Oklahoma, lives south of me, and he's been talking about coming up here and shoot with me. And I'm not going to teach Joel jack diddly unless he wants to learn fitness. But like, I could learn a lot from Joel when it comes to shooting. And
I
so
got to
I think
interrupt
they're
you.
yeah.
That's not true. I am an adult educator, and you bring something. I've got a bunch of friends that are Olympians. Uh, your fitness side of things. So a lot of shooters, and you see this. There's a lot of them that are not very fit. But you look at the best guys, JJ Racaza, Max
Oh yeah.
Michel, all these guys that are friends of mine, Travis Tomasi, they're all into fitness for a reason because nobody said, I wish I was less fit or I wish I was weaker or I wish I was slower. And that changes the way that you interact with a weapon. Go
Yeah,
on.
I mean, for sure. I mean, in terms of JJ, I want to put it out there. JJ is a turd, and he should just squat more and stop doing so much upper body. He's a good friend of mine, but I always make fun of that guy for being like, dude, more squats, less
Dude, he
pull-ups. I
can.
don't care about.
I've seen him. I've seen him standing, just jump over a fucking folding table, just no forward movement. I've seen him have like I think it was almost 5 foot. He jumped on a loading dock from the ground up onto the loading dock, and he's not a big man. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So like in terms of the going back to your question, like I know I was talking to Joel, like they've got that dry fire book coming out, I think this week or whatever. And I'm like, dude, Joel, get me on that list or I'm gonna buy it day one because all those books like are when everyone asks me what's a good dry fire program to go with and look at least for just anything in general, that is what I'm going to recommend. Anything from that gentleman, and I bought other people's dry fire books for sure, but those are just the ones that have always kind of just connected with me the most in that aspect.
I like that. If you could go back to when you started the shooting portion of your career, would you
Mm.
change anything? Is there something you'd tell that guy from a few years back?
I didn't. So at the time when I started, I was training specifically for attack games. I didn't care about anything else, right? And so there wasn't at that time a whole lot of media or videos or anything, training programs on the tactical games. It was essentially null. There's nothing there. And basically, the only thing that existed for dry fire was like for USPSA. So when I saw you should do dry fire for the sport, well, I thought USPSA and TAC games are both shooting sports, are probably the same kind of dry fire. And that's what I did for the sport, for TAC games, and it wasn't the same. We don't draw on a timer for a majority of our stages, right? I'm doing fitness. I approach a firing line. I draw my pistol inside of a box. I shoot good solid hits on target. I then clear the pistol, holster it, and lead the firing line. It's not like I have a shot timer every stage where I'm drawing on a shot timer and pulling the trigger as fast as quick as I can on doubles. So I definitely trained wrong in the beginning. Now, did that help for action stages in the future? Sure. I just trained wrong for the sport, or at least TAC games.
I dig it. I like it. I'd like to couple things. One, tell you thank you very much for taking the time to visit with us. I learned a bunch that I didn't know, not just about the tactical games, but about you. You've got a really cool story. I always ask folks as we wrap up a discussion, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people over the years that this thing's on the internet that hear the things that you said today, and most of them you'll never meet. What would you leave them with?
Yeah. I've always had a line I've always lived by. Like, I've done a lot of things in my life. You see, we talk about success, right? We get on this podcast and we talk about, what are some successful companies you've done? What are some things you've done here? You were successful at TAC games, you were successful in CrossFit games, yada, yada, yada. But no one discusses the crap where you're not successful at, right? Like, I played college ball. I never started. Like, there was a lot of things I did that I tried that I was not great at. There's a lot of companies I've started that have been bankrupt or failed, or partnerships fell apart, or whatever the case may be. And so there's always been a line I've lived by, and that was the concept of not successful, just faithful. And it's the whole concept of, hey, there are going to be some things that I do, that Nikki does, that whoever you're listening, that are not going to be successful. But being faithful enough to come in after success, right? The Thomas Edison quote, I'll try 1,000 times and fail 99, whatever the case may be. Similar concept, right? I'm going to fail in companies. I'm going to bankrupt companies. I'm going to try, and there are going to be a lot of things that I don't do well at. We talk about success, and that's awesome. But there's a lot of crap behind the success you see that wasn't successful. And those are the things that make you who you are. But being faithful enough to come back and keep trying is important.
I'm writing that down. I dig that, man. Sometimes I've asked a couple hundred people that question, and once in a while there's a good one. And I shouldn't, I'm not poo-pooing the lovely guests that have come on the show over the years, but sometimes it's pretty flippant stuff. That's a good one. And I shouldn't say nobody, most people are not willing to admit what you just did. Personally, I've never had a failure. Pretty much everything I do works out perfect. And
it's gold. You touch it, it's gold right off the
bat. Dude, I have screwed up more things. And that's actually like a great lesson. If you just, of course, we're not looking to screw up, but you accept it and then you just move on, And
I mean, honestly, if there was a podcast out there that was like called Failures, whatever name you want, and you got on with a listener and you just said, hey, Jacob, I know you're successful, whatever, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the things you failed at. Man, honestly, I'm sure it exists, because if it doesn't, by golly, start that sucker right now.
We've done about 20 of those with that, from that angle, and it's all the same stuff. If that person brings it full circle, it's all the same stuff. I just kept making that batch of cookies over and over again until I made it right, or until I made it perfect.
Yeah. Because, man, I can sit here and tell stories.
What are you doing? Pinching your finger with a...
Oh, I'm sorry. I am totally I have ADHD, so I got to... Yeah, I'm a fidgeter, dude.
Put your hands up and just stop.
No,
you need a hug?
Nah, dude. We can't...
You need a hug, don't you?
I've got I don't even know what this is, a pair of pliers in my hand. But yeah, it's we could sit here all day long and talk about failures, but yeah, it's they define who you are. Like those are the things that people don't see. They see you win TAC Games Nationals or whatever. They see you win the CrossFit Games or see you do whatever, but they don't see the poo-poo you had to put up with to get there. The amount of times you failed in dry fire or failed to do it or failed whatever.
I like it. I appreciate you sharing that. You guys, one more thing. How do people find you? You've got a bunch of different social media stuff. You've got a
Yeah.
website. Throw that stuff out there.
Yeah. So let me talk about, got a lot of different companies, a lot of different social aspects or landing pages. I have two basic personal landing pages. Personal Instagrams. I got a personal one that's J Heppner 66. That's just my personal fitness one. That's a lot of fitness. I determined quickly early on that I can put a lot of shooting information on that for fear of the shadow ban concept, and also because I work with a lot of fitness companies still that just don't want to see guns, and that's totally fine. And so I have my own shooting account that is just Heppner Training. That is the only shooting, and then of course I have other companies. I have a media company that I run that's Six Media Collective, and then I've got fitness accounts that are different too, that fitness companies. So, but yeah, do a lot. Those are where you can kind of find me at.
I like that. You guys that tuned in, go check him out. Go look at some of the cool videos up there of him doing a bunch of needless work to win a trophy.
Nailed it.
I'm just kidding. Go check this stuff out. It's very, it's amazing to see what the human body's capable of with hard work, with dedication, with focus. If you're not willing to do all of those things, that's fine, but you can make yourself better with some focus. And you don't need to be winning the tactical games, but you can be 1, 2, 3% better every week, month, year, and be better at protecting your family. As always, be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. Pick up some Ignis Lux coffee as we're in the roastery today. And we talked about it a bunch in this podcast. I got some 10 mil in my hand. But go check out our good friends at Supervel Ammunition out of Henderson, Nevada, and support those folks. Supervel is super awesome, as I always say. Peace out. Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.